Hey, there we go.
Now we're live. Okay.
Now we get the cliche, hey, we're live.
Yep, we're just here to go after the low-hanging fruit of Conservapedia's causes of atheism. Disclaimer, we know that this site has been infiltrated by trolls and other people, but possibly. It's a good list to go off of just to have some fun for the next 30 or so minutes and see what comes up.
So I think
list
that
here, I'll share the screen real quick of what we're looking at.
We should probably assume that everything they say is troll speak, but give it the benefit of the doubt anyway and try to treat it seriously. Because I have heard, this is what makes stuff like this so hard, is I've heard stuff like this from people.
Yeah,
not necessarily this stuff verbatim, but like a lot of the stuff, yeah, like the first picture on there is Stalin. It's like there's absolutely a conflation or association of atheists and shitty people. I guess what's the policy on language?
It's language.
It has usages. It's not vulgarity. It's sentence enhancers.
Yeah, I'm not on the apologia side where I'm trying not to curse, but
well, I mean, I'm pretty sure that if I say no one's going to get mad at me and not listen when I say Stalin was a shitty person, and yeah. I would also like to point out that anybody that burns somebody at the stake as a witch or a heretic was also a shitty person. So it's not in whether or not you're a believer or not is not indicative of whether or not you're a good person. You're, I guess, judged by your actions.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. So let's start off with mankind's sinful nature. So if your causes of atheism, mankind's sinful nature, you're already assuming.
Yeah, one thing really quick. So there's like at least 30 entries. That's as many as I got to. How many? We got about 25 minutes left. 26. How many do we want to try to get through? 10?
Sure. Let's go for 10. Let's see. What happens.
Because some of these are really short.
Yes.
All right, go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying that right off the bat, you're assuming you're showing the bias from the Christian perspective of sinful nature. The history of atheist community and various studies concerning the atheist community point to moral decline being a causal factor in atheism.
For atheism. So my question would be whether or not they're assuming stuff is what are they pointing to as a moral decline? Miniskirts? Gay people?
Probably all the above, depending on which denomination you are.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
there's a ex-Jehovah's Witness that's got some new videos as of, I think, the
Buttercup.
And it's they found some videos, Bethel, I guess, where they have I don't know what's in Bethel for Jehovah's Witnesses, but these are serious videos. Two old guys talking to guys and girls about masturbation.
I think I've seen I saw something recently about that too.
It's very awkward to watch and homosexuality. So
come on.
My answer would be all the above.
Come on, Buttercup. Or not. No.
Here's this little thing right here. Christianity in the 1980s has witnessed a pattern amongst several of its friends. Their path from Christianity to atheism involved moral slippage, such as infidelity.
Kind of like anal leakage. Come on.
We were. Yeah, I'm not going to make the. All right. Such as infidelity, resentment, or unforgiveness, followed by withdrawal from contract with fellow believers. followed by growing doubts about their faith, accompanied by continuing indulgence in respect of sin, and culminating in the conscious rejection of God.
All right, so what is that from? The Christian Post? That's
The making of an atheist. It's from.
I think you might have cut out.
Okay. I mean, minus the moral slippage, because
there we go.
We'll just think about all the stuff in the Catholic Church and the fact that there's no difference in the divorce rate or infidelity rate among Christians or non-Christians. That progression can be followed.
Well, if we're going to...
I just stopped talking to most Christian people or about going to church, and so I fell down the withdrawal, contract with fellow Christians or fellow believers, and then growing doubts about the faith. I don't think I've accompanied it by an indulgence in the respective sin.
Yeah, I mean that's such part of this is just the fact that it's speaking with such broad generalizations. It's so vague. It's like Nostradamus prophecies. You can make it fit anything. Let's just assume that he means by moral slippage, like some of the stuff following that statement. Well, yeah, infidelity, which I have not been any different in my any type of like promises I've made. I'm like, no, I'm still as honest as I was as a believer, and it's one of my core character traits. Is like I try to be. If I say I'm going to do something, I try to keep my promises, and then there better be a good reason why I didn't. But
and have you cheated on your wife since you became an atheist?
No. Why?
Yeah. Exactly. What is it? I think it was Hitchens. He's like, I've raped exactly as many people as I wanted to.
Pendulette said it. Oh, they both said it. Yeah. But it's like, I would say that
as many wives as exactly as I want to. None.
I would posit that cheating happens partly because we have such societal constraints on relationships. Like the idea is, oh, you got to get married, you got to do this, and a lot of it is you got to do it as soon as possible. You can't wait till you get old. So you have people, one, who possibly wouldn't be in their character trait to be monogamous, or two, people who rush into decisions and before they had a chance to weigh all their options, whatnot. So like not that I encourage lying and cheating and keeping secrets from people, but I'm like, I can see reasons why it would happen. And it's not necessarily just the person, like 100% the person's fault. Maybe like 95% their fault. Okay, resentment or unforgiveness? Unforgiveness for what? What am I going to forgive or not forgive? Why is that a bad thing? But resentment, I'm like, I'm not really. I'll probably, contradict this later, but I'm not really resentful of anything. Well, maybe.
How about your science education?
Yes, I was like, all the stuff I didn't learn in school.
Yeah, I was talking with somebody about, like, man, I felt like I got a great education. I had to do 7 academic classes my senior year of high school, while like other people that my age were doing 3 half days a week because they'd already met all the standards for the state. But I couldn't do that. So I had a good education, but I was deprived of a lot of basis for biology. I learned the cell structure and all the other things, but I missed out on a whole lot of awe and wonder of how those things form and how those things work together and why they end up forming the way they did.
I think I got a fairly decent education at UCF where people made fun of me for being an English major, but I started out as a biology major. So I did basic level biology 1 and 2, chemistry 1 and 2. Okay, I'll just keep yakking. I'll finish this up and we'll go to a further point. chemistry 1 and 2, organic chemistry, calculus, trigonometry, two high-level biology classes, anthropology class, as well as all my English curricula. So it was like I had a really like I was talking to other people in the English department. Nobody else came close to getting that like sciencey education. That's probably the reason they went with the English degree.
Yep. For anybody that watches this, like the two people that may ever watch this in the future, that was the signal for my mic and speakers went out.
That's probably part of the reason. I mean, part of the reason I started out as biology is I've always been interested in that sort of stuff. I've always liked outdoorsy stuff. All right, we're going to go on. In addition to this historical matter of deceit being used in a major way to propagate atheism from the time of Charles Darwin onward.
There's a conspiracy. If your beliefs require a worldwide conspiracy that includes everybody that studies science, including believers who accept evolution, then there might be a little too much assumption in your belief. That I never got was, how can you possibly think this 150-year conspiracy is going on?
I just don't understand. Like, I say this, I don't understand conspiratorial thinking, but I'll bet there's like one thing or a few small things that would be could be construed as conspiratorial thinking that I'm guilty of. So, I mean, if anybody, you know, you're more than welcome to point them out, and it's probably would be like political beliefs and whatnot. What? No, Buttercup, that is a closet. You can't get out that way. I'm not sending you to Narnia.
Let's skip a part about atheists being morally depraved in the Bible, because I like this phrase right here. Francis Thomas wrote, "Maybe the atheist cannot find God for the same reason a thief cannot find a policeman."
Hey-o!
So it's just reiterating we don't believe in God because we don't want to. That it's just, I don't see any evidence. I mean, it's as simple as that. I don't find Bigfoot. I'm not finding Bigfoot because I don't want to believe in Bigfoot.
I mean, it's just kind of strikes me as such a snide comment. It's one of those things where I can understand thinking that you have the absolute truth. Fine, whatever. But the idea that you know why someone else is doing something just seems so mean-spirited to me.
I'd agree with that. I don't like being told what I believe and why. I don't mind being pointed out that I could be wrong. I've had lots of discussions at work lately because we're talking about the moon landings and why not they didn't happen. And this same person that accepts those also is accepting of a lot of alternative histories.
Yeah.
So the Olmec heads are a legit thing, going off on a sidebar, but they don't show or support the theory that he was proposing. So you can find there's confirmation bias in everybody. I'm not going to say I don't have it.
Yeah, but I just don't like. There seems to be something else I want to say about Francis Thompson, but
let's click on Francis Thompson, see what happens.
Okay.
I'll screen share and click on him.
Hey, not much. Uh, 1859 to 1907. English poet and ascetic. Ooh, one of those guys.
Okay. Going back.
So let me.
Well, this rolls right in. While you're doing that, this rolls right into number 2, hatred towards God. I don't know that you really can say mankind's sinful nature and have number be a separate item of hatred toward God. This wouldn't that be part of man's sinful nature? So that's mostly that's 1B.
Well, let me go back to that. All right, part 2, hatred towards God. Angry and bitter attacks on Christianity and Christians.
Most often due to a hatred towards Jesus Christ in the Bible. I don't hate either of those things.
Say again?
I said I don't hate either of those things. I'm not a mythicist. I think there was probably, because of all the going on around that time, either it was one person that's been legendized, made into a legend, or it's a conglomeration and just a mixture of a whole bunch of other.
I mean, if it's a conglomeration of people and there was no actual Jesus, then yeah, that would kind of make you a mythicist.
I guess I could kind of make a myth. Okay.
Like, yeah,
but I think it's more likely that there is at least one person.
Yeah, I'm. So yeah, I would probably be like a weak mythicist position. I after reading Carrier's book, it just I'm gonna have to read more. But according to him and the stuff that he cites, it just doesn't seem to fit. It almost seems that most of the people who have said, yeah, Jesus exists, did so because of personal bias or just crappy historical methods. But there are a couple sort of prominent atheists, and I don't think many people in the atheist community would say Jesus was a bad dude, like the Jesus presented in the Bible. There are a few instances of him being like racist and advocating for child murder, but you could probably find, I know there's one, there's a couple instances of Jesus stuff that like has been later additions to the Gospels. But most of the people, like even Monty Python, when they made Life of Brian, which this is how a lot of the stuff, they looked at that and they're like, "What?
Are you an atheist because of Life of Brian?"
No. And I think
that's probably number 36.
I think that religious people should probably watch Life of Brian because it's hilarious. And I was still kind of religious when I watched it, and I didn't think anything of it. And I read an interview of the Pythons where they're like, well, shit, we can't make fun of Jesus. Nothing he says is funny. Nothing he does is funny. That's not where the humor is. So they wanted to make it about just like more religion in general and just dumb. Not saying all believers are dumb, but like the dumb believers who just blindly follow stuff without looking in, like, sort of stuff. It seems to be. Because, have you seen it?
Long time ago, and I think I might have at the time not watched the whole thing because of offense. I may have to rewatch it now.
The whole, like, part of it, like, people mistake Brian as the Messiah, and they follow him around as he's saying, I'm not who you think I am. And there's one scene where he falls down a hole and lands on an ascetic hermit. And the hermit's like, ow! And they're like, oh, he cured his muteness. And he's like, no, I can always speak. I just took a vow of silence. He got up and was like, oh, get out of my hole. And like, oh, he cured his lameness. Like, no, I did this by my own choice. My personal favorite scene was the, and this is why a friend of mine, I kind of was discussing this with her, and it's like, you need to watch this pretty much just because of this scene. Brian graffitis, he joins up with the Jewish zealots against Rome and graffitis a Roman building, office building, saying Romans go home. And John Cleese comes in as a Roman centurion and corrects his grammar and makes him do it 100 times. It's just, I think it's hilarious.
I'll have to watch it again. Hopefully it's on Amazon or something. I'll have to look it up later.
But I mean, there's the stereotypical canned response, like, I don't hate God because I don't think he exists. But this is part of the, like, cognitive dissonance I think exists in Christianity I don't know for how long, but definitely in modern Christianity, and there where the Old Testament God is an asshole.
Yeah, I mean, the issue
But
of slavery. When you talk with
slavery,
somebody, you have to dance around the subject and have all these crazy reasonings.
genocide,
That was a big thing for me. Was if you've got to dance around to explain things when it's not just clear, don't own people, done. Then
I mean
there's something wrong,
that's
and that's
kind of another issue. But my point is, like, he does that. He genocide. He makes a whole bunch of rules that we think are terrible today. There's a lot of arbitrarily.
Shrimp. I like shrimp.
Interestingly odd rules, like don't eat shrimp. Like the dietary rules are weird, and I for a while thought there's like the 10 Commandments. One of the commandments is to not boil a kid in his mother's milk, and I thought that meant to literally not do that. But apparently, the rabbinical tradition is tacked onto that, where cheeseburgers are not kosher because you can't eat meat and cheese at the same time. So I think that would make a bacon cheeseburger the most unkosher food of ever, or a surf and turf bacon cheeseburger.
So yeah, well, we should.
But I was like,
what do you call that? The heresy grill?
Sure. And then,
look, we're gonna get rich off of that now. We shouldn't post this video. Keep that all to ourselves.
Have you seen Godless Engineer's video, the latest one about with Max Kolbe and how atheism is a conspiracy? That we're all getting paid. We're all being financed by some rich leftist kooky millionaire. But so hatred, you can't hate.
Where do I sign up?
Yeah, but so apparently this is a thing with new atheists where they're really angry and that we're still learning the ropes on how to critique bad ideas and bad logic, not the people that hold them. It's still the love the sinner, hate the sin type of thing. But I'm like, I don't hate the sin. I don't think there is a sin. But you're doing something, like I see you doing something that is wrong. Logic, like you have a bad argument. I'm trying to fit.
Like the argument of why can't supernatural be considered a reason? Well, you can't. You can use supernatural to explain everything if you want to.
You have the weak explanatory
so it becomes
power.
A useless.
But the thing is, go ahead.
I was saying, if you can use it to explain anything and everything, it's a poor explainer. I mean, it's useless.
It's not worth anything. But even if you want to use it as a reason, you would have to refute every single natural explanation, no matter how unlikely. But I told Apologia, I mean, if I'm and I watched something of his recently where when he was coming out as an atheist, he talked to his pastors and his preachers and like religious leaders and professors at Bible college, and some of them knew that there wasn't any evidence for what they were speaking, or there was evidence against what they were saying, but they still decided they hid that information from their students and congregation and went ahead anyway. And you could say, well, I don't believe that stuff. I'm like, well, it's not whether or not you believe it. The person who Paul was talking to said, hey, yes, I saw this and I felt it contradicted what I was teaching, but I didn't give that to my students or congregation. I hid that from them and went along without any critical or critiques of it. It's just like, just fed them the stuff. It's like, oh yeah, this is true 100%.
Yeah, I don't think Paul was the only one that said that. I think I've heard that from at least one other person where.
Well, that was where only one, and I haven't gone and talked. We should try to track down some of our preachers and pastors and talk to them. But I told Paul, for whatever
there's a couple on Facebook
that if I seem angry, it's because I'm angry mostly at myself, because a lot of the stuff that I've learned about science and natural history is stuff that was really easy to find And we should have found it earlier for kids that lived within a 5-minute walk of the library and would go there Saturday morning sometimes instead of eating Cocoa Puffs in front of the TV. Like we liked going to the library. We liked reading. All of us did. And we liked dinosaurs and the 65 million year old extinction event and all this stuff. And we never like put 2 and 2 together. We kind of let ourselves be deceived. And I'm angry at myself for not.
It just kind of separated. It was two different worlds, I guess.
Yeah.
But I don't remember lots of pastors teaching young Earth creationism in the pulpit. I think most of the time I got exposed to that was actually at TMA, the Masters Academy, and I think that's where I mostly saw it. I can't remember. I'd like to see if we can figure out if Kent Hovind came to South Seminole.
I really think he did come to South Seminole. And what's hilarious is I think one of the elders or deacons, I can't remember which one it was just trolling the ever-loving fuck out of whoever it was, using their own line against him. Well, how do you know? Because they're I think the specific, I know somebody came in and did the polystrate trees, but then they also did
really? No, I either don't remember it all, or I wasn't there.
And it's the diluvian floodplains of the Mississippi River, the Delta. They were talking about how we can measure the flow rate of the Mississippi River, and this is only like so many thousands of years old. This can't have gone on for millions of years, hundreds, tens of thousands. I mean, plate tectonics are a thing, but even then, like if you could get a date for the Mississippi mud flow over 10,000 years, it would kind of disprove creationism. But this deacon is in the pews going, well, how do you know? How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? And the guy's like, well, we measured it. And
do you think
he's like, how do you know? How do you know? He's asking for.
That have been Brumbaugh?
No, it was not Doug Brumbaugh.
No, because he was the math guy. So.
He was the polymath, but it was kind of weird that he was. I don't.
Yeah, I'm just tying this into number 3, atheist upbringing.
Yes.
Now that we're talking about our non-atheist upbringing.
Yeah.
So it ties into this conversation. Like we grew up in a evangelical church that had maybe 3 or 4 pastors over the time that we were there.
At least 3. Was Doc Brown?
Doc Brown. Is it Brown?
Paul. J. Keith. I think that was it. And then we had a couple of youth pastors. J. Keith. Todd. Bob. Lee, which is one of the things that Mom got really mad with the church about. She got furious when they threw 1 Timothy in her face. She like got this fuck you attitude. She was this is kind of annoying, but for atheist upbringing, a Georgetown University study was published indicating that only 30% of those who grew up in an atheist household remain atheists as adults. I would like to see the corollary of that for religious upbringing. And then they bring up Madeline Murray O'Hare's son, who disappointed her greatly by becoming a religious person. In addition, Christianity is experiencing rapid growth in atheistic communist China. But just because it's popular doesn't mean it's right. And then the fun thing about communist China, I don't know if I told you, aside from a really militant period in like the 60s and 70s, like the late 60s, early 70s, Christianity has been allowed in China. They had an official state church, and they haven't really had a good relationship with the Catholics because the Catholics have said, no, we recognize the Pope as an authority, and China doesn't really want anybody to recognize foreign leaders as authorities. And America had a really similar thing too around the same time. We did not like John F. Kennedy when he was on the campaign trail. Oh, he's a Catholic. He's going to put the U.S. under the papal control.
Yep. So I'm assuming you've gone to the that last little section there.
Yeah. Well, just a quick aside. But
yeah, well, I'm catching up. I'm pretty pissed about the microphone just going in and out for no freaking reason. But it's talking about, in addition, Christianity is experiencing rapid growth and atheistic communists. So I'm assuming
I think that's really easy to just brush aside. Like, yeah, just because it's popular doesn't mean it's right. And a lot of their information about China is kind of inaccurate or biased. But I would like to talk about like an atheist upbringing. Do you know anybody that was raised an atheist?
I might know one guy that I was in the military with, that he was one of the guys that would post a lot of atheist stuff. And part of my deconversion was looking at his little post and being like, well, that kind of makes sense. Let me check on that. I couldn't find a reason for it not to make sense. So
you were deconverted by memes? Oh, this talk is over.
Partially, yes. And I sent him a message and I was like, hey, you were part of it. So thank you.
I think,
but he might be interesting to have on because he's always been atheist. He didn't have a Christian upbringing, as far as I know.
Well, I do know. So we're going to set aside Conservapedia and talk about real examples. I have been accused already, and I do know people that say, well, your belief in science is as dogmatic as my religion.
I haven't had that one yet, but I haven't had a lot of discussions on religion in person.
Well, it's not in person. So I do. There are a couple YouTuber atheists that say, yes, I'm a mean asshole on Facebook and on YouTube, but in person, no. It's a different world in person. But I think if I were to have a face-to-face with this person, they would still flat out accuse me of being dogmatic. They wouldn't. Did you? Okay. So we got 3.
Got 3. Not bad. We can skip over 4 since it doesn't even have a...
Yeah, well, that isn't even the shortest one. Like 6 does the same thing, and then 9, I think, there's not even see this. It's just title. I think we might have to stop before we go into like dogmatism, or we can try to wrap it up with dogmatism. I mean,
which one are we at?
3. Atheist upbringing.
3. Yeah, I mean, we're examples of people who didn't have it and still ended up in that position.
Yeah, I have heard though that that we're kind of predisposed to a binary worldview because we grew up in sort of a fairly fundamentalist religious upbringing where we had the truth and there were people, we were the saved, they were the sinners. And so now we've kind of moved on to being atheists where like, well, we've been enlightened and now everybody else are morons, which I don't mean that. Like,
I'm going to quote you on that. And
well, I've had people like do some tongue-in-cheek stuff when I said, hey, give me questions. And like, how do atheists buy hats to fit their big brains and, lord over us atheist or religious morons? I'm like, well, I have an extra large fedora.
Yep. Well, that's why I still have my hair. It just doesn't follow.
But, I mean, he was tongue-in-cheek, and I mean it tongue-in-cheek as well. It's like, and the guy who accused me of being dogmatic, I mentioned him to Eric. He's a mutual friend of ours, and he's like, "Oh, that guy." It's like that dude is one of the weird cases of how you can be a really smart person and believe dumb things. I do remember an unrelated note where he tried to get into a battle of words with me. He tried to make up a word, and I'm like, "You don't need to. That word already exists." You're misusing it. And Eric was there, and this guy is like, oh, doodle doodle doodle, like trying to make this argument. And Eric's like, no, I'm gonna believe Ian over here. He's the word dude. You just shut up. But
yep. We'll end on that. Weird people making up words.
But I know, like, we're predisposed to binary. Now that we are atheists, we see everything still in this black and white. And I want to try to not be dogmatic about this, because I want to think that we have evidence, and like we've tried to do stuff rationally.
I would like to think that too.
I think the reason why we're saying I'd like to think that is part of what separates us from being dogmatic is we're open to the possibility of being wrong. Oh, God, your mic has gone out at the last minute. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely do you think you are wrong? I go 9. I don't. Well, how like 1? Yeah, I don't think I'm wrong. Partly because there's mounds and mounds of evidence that was hidden from me, or I never bothered to look. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. As far as being wrong, I don't. Are we talking? Let's talk the Dawkins scale. 1, that there is
hard theist. 7 hard theist.
I'm probably a 6 on that scale.
Yeah. I mean, you could tweak it to like, Thor, 7.
Yeah. But I would have to agree with a lot of different people. They're like, well, if you're just talking basic, general, a God somewhere out there, then you can never be sure. But if you make a specific about a God flooding the entire earth, then there's a 7.
Yeah.
So, that, or the like God that makes thunder.
Yeah, all the stuff that you're claiming that has happened, we don't see the evidence for it. And I don't understand how you think your professors and scientists that are saying, who've spent their lives researching this stuff, why you think they're wrong or misguided. And I don't think you're doing them credit by just outright dismissing them or saying, oh, well, they're only human. They could be wrong. So I think I'm going to believe this human or this book written by people.
Yep. All right. We're rambling now. So let's, not that anybody's ever going to watch this, but let's end it in short little bites. And this, we'll come back to it. We could do a couple more on this and just talk about random things. Like intellectual cowardice. That'd be a good one to talk about later.
Well, what books are you trying to read right now?
What books?
Yeah.
School books.
Oh.
Besides school books, in between.
I can still hear you. I'm going to go grab a couple of my books that I'm going to go read, but I'm listening.
I'm trying to read The Moral Arc by Michael Shermer, and I'm actually sitting next to my little bookshelf here. Where's the other one I want to read? No. Oh, and I need to finish Arn Ra's book too. And I would like to finish the rest of the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series. But I'm going to go ahead and say, are you grabbing your books? No? Can you hear me?
Yeah. All right.
All right.
So, do I have anything in here that's... So you gave me a book that like a cousin of something of yours wrote. I probably should read that. I've got stuff on my Kindle, like Sean Carroll's books on Evo Devo.
Mm-hmm.
But I have Kenneth Miller's Finding Darwin's God. I need to read. That's on my to-read list. And I've also got, I've read one book already. It was kind of like a biography. But another book by Carl Sagan called Comet.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's fiction or nonfiction. what I really like is it was a used bookstore, and it's got an inscription to somebody, and happy birthday 1985.
Nice.
But yeah, the cats are in here messing around. I think we're
done for the day.
Yeah.
We'll figure out. We got some content on. Hopefully we can talk to some people, because you and me talking back and forth,
it's going to get
talking
boring
in an
really
echo
fast.
chamber. Yeah. So we definitely got to get some extra people in here.
Yeah, I'm going to try to do
I'm going to go ahead and
a lot of reading.
Go ahead and turn off the live broadcast here in about 10 seconds.
I'm going to try to do a lot of reading again this year and try to work some of that into my channel. So hopefully look forward to that. You don't need to leave a link.